We're going to keep the energy up here a little bit, but I would like to introduce Younes and Craig to stage now, who are going to be covering off AI open innovation. So they're going to be covering the topic of how Red Hat and IBM work together, bringing open source solutions in the AI space to market. So at this point, guys, come on up.
We'll be covering today, like Simon was saying, our AI open innovations, some of the solutions that IBM and Red Hat have been working on together to further the cause of open source AI innovation. So let's get it started. Oops. This is a quick agenda on what we're going to be covering. So the first one is going to be our combined solution that some of you might be aware of, watsonx with the underlying OpenShift or Red Hat infrastructure. Then we'll talk about what is Red Hat AI, if you've been hearing that term, what compromises Red Hat AI, what products are part of it. And then we'll talk about the value of our partnership, and just like we were saying, the open source innovation in terms of an AI context. And Craig will cover a live use case that is very interesting in the medical field. So to get started, we've seen a lot of the IT and data science teams that are looking for a comprehensive and flexible AI solution that they can integrate and gives them a lot of flexibility in terms of deploying their AI solution, either generative AI or predictive AI. And IBM and Red Hat have gotten together to provide this stack that you're seeing here. It is based on Red Hat AI open source software, which includes OpenShift AI and RHEL AI, and I'll cover those in the next slide. And as we can see, that is the foundation of IBM watsonx, with watsonx AI, and it is complemented by IBM watsonx.governance and IBMX.data. So by providing this whole stack, we can provide to any IT or data science teams a full comprehensive solutions from start to end so that they can start training, developing, and deploying their generative AI and predictive AI solutions. As you can see under that Red Hat AI stack in there, we have Red Hat OpenShift, which is pretty much the foundation for all of this stack. It takes care of all the orchestration that you would need. And under that, you have the hardware accelerators. OpenShift does support the majority or the most common hardware accelerators, namely AMD, Intel, or NVIDIA. So we have operators for all of those. And finally, this solution is available in a variety of environments. Obviously, we want our AI solutions to be across a hybrid environment. So it could either be deployed on a VM environment, a bare metal one, at the edge, public cloud, private cloud, and even air-gapped solutions, right? Exactly. All right. So moving on to what is Red Hat AI Platform. So Red Hat AI Platform, like I was saying, our two main products are Red Hat Enterprise Linux AI and Red Hat OpenShift AI. RHEL AI is our foundation model platform for developing, testing, and running Granite family LLMs. Now, RHEL AI focuses mainly on Gen AI use cases, and it includes Granite LLMs, but also InstructLab that I'll be talking on the next slide. And it is all packaged up in what we call a bootable RHEL image. That bootable RHEL image includes not only InstructLab Granite family models, but also all the drivers and the AI runtime libraries that you would need to deploy that. One thing or one key aspect I would say of RHEL AI is it does not need any prerequisites. It is a single SKU, it is a single product that you can just buy and put it in within your servers. It is validated with a few varieties of GPUs. Mainly the ones that I can think of right now are the NVIDIA ones, so L40S or H100s. And it does not have any prerequisites. Whereas we have OpenShift AI on the other side, it is the full-fledged AI platform that we have here at Red Hat. It includes all the capabilities that RHEL AI has, and we'll further integrate in those within OpenShift AI, but also provides the whole MLOps lifecycle that you would need. So think about the whole AI lifecycle from taking a model, training it, fine-tuning it, deploying it, but also monitoring the drift and providing that whole MLOps or machine learning operation so that you can keep that model accurate and making the right predictions. And that's what OpenShift AI kind of provides you. It includes multiple, I would say, features, including the MLOps capabilities that I just talked about, but also the distributed compute and collaborative workflow. There's actually a session that's going to be also this afternoon presented by our product manager, or Jeff DeMoss, that talks about some features that we're announcing this week as well. So the vision of our partnership, like we were saying earlier, IBM and Red Hat are getting together so that we can further improve the open source innovation in AI. The first one is transitioning Watson X AI's backend technologies to open source, where we integrated OpenShift AI. The second one is a community approach for model alignment. And what we mean by that is Instruct Lab. And the next slide, we'll be talking in details in terms of what is Instruct Lab. But it does take the community approach, whereas we open it up, we open a model to anyone that can contribute. We don't want the model to be just for data science experts so they can contribute to it. Models are used in a variety of ways, and we need domain experts to contribute to that. And that's what is being achieved by this community approach for model alignment through Instruct Lab. The second one is participating, or the third one is participating in AI Alliance. Red Hat and IBM are actually founders of this AI Alliance that further advocates for open source innovation in the AI world in a responsible way and non-biased way as well. And finally, focusing on curated and trusted models. This is a big topic right now in terms of open source models. Everyone claims that they have an open source model, but IBM has actually open sourced their Granite family models a couple of months ago. I think it was back in May, where they actually are being distributed under the Apache 2.0 license. So when we say they open source and IBM open source those, not only they provide them so that you can change them, customize them, but they also provided the data that they were trained on. So that is complete transparency, and also the weights that were used during the training. So that is complete transparency as organizations are starting to use these open source models and add their proprietary data to them, and they can more or less expect what the outcome is going to be and steer away from any hallucinations, bias, or anything like that. This is even more exciting. This is the one that, again, IBM has just released these a couple of weeks ago. So the ones that I was just talking about were the Granite models. These are the Granite 3.0 models. So these are just open source as well, just released by IBM a couple of weeks ago during IBM Tech Exchange. They support a variety of speaking languages. The other one, the previous one, was just the 7B in terms of English language. This one supports a variety of languages, coding languages as well. And in terms of performance, it rivals most of the same size models within the market right now. And that's a key component to call out as well, is we are focusing on the smaller Granite LLM models. As we can see here, we got the 2B and the AB. And the main reason for that, again, is as we're seeing more organizations use these models, they are being used within a specific domain. So they don't need to know a wide breadth of information in terms of other models that we know that are readily available and that are actually in the trillions of parameters versus billions, which is what that B stands for. So we're thinking that these smaller models are not only easier to train, but they're also in terms of cost effective to train because there are smaller models and less parameters. And finally, I'll wrap it up before I give it to you, Craig, in terms of the value of Instruct Lab. So Instruct Lab is part of our RHEL AI product that I was talking about earlier that focuses on Gen AI use cases. And what it does, Instruct Lab was actually developed by IBM and Red Hat and open sourced. And it takes the same approach as open source software. So we take a software and we take a model and we can fork it. Not only we can fork it, we can open it to anyone within a domain expertise or within an organization so they can start contributing to that model. And here we have a little bit of an example of what the workflow would look like. Obviously, when it's at a customer or a private instance, none of that's going to be contributed upstream or anywhere on the open source. It stays within the organization. But it just shows you a little bit of how anyone within the organization think of it as different departments, accounting, IT, HR. Everybody has something to contribute to a model. And through Instruct Lab, they have the ability to do that. That is usually done through a Q&A, so you can just chat with the model. And the even better part of Instruct Lab is it can extrapolate from that. So think you're chatting with the model, trying to teach it a new, what we call skill and knowledge. You can interact with it for 10 questions. And what Instruct Lab can provide on top of that is synthetic data generation. So from those 10 Q&As that you've been interacting with the model, it can extrapolate those to 1,000. And from the 1,000, it can train itself to further get better accuracy and better results. Now, most of the time, the question that comes up is, how do we know that those 1,000 synthetic data generation points of data are that we can trust them? There's no bias in them. So within Instruct Lab, we also have a teacher model and a critic model that actually look at those extrapolation of all those examples that were created, and you make sure that there is no bias or anything included in them. So that's the other community-driven approach that we're taking in terms of contributing to a model and democratizing, as the way that we're saying, democratizing AI development, not just to data scientists, but that anyone that has a domain or is a domain expert within a specific field can contribute to these models. And Craig here will give us a quick overview of a case study where this was put in place.
Thank you. So we used the OpenShift AI system with watsonx technology for a project that we did with Albert Einstein College of Medicine. So the first slide talks about the problem statement that was actually a fantastic opportunity for Albert Einstein. One of their chairs gave a transformational donation that meant that every student that was going to apply to their med school and be accepted and go to school there got free tuition for this school year and in perpetuity, right? So that meant that the admissions team at Albert Einstein College of Medicine was going to expect year-to-year admissions to be dramatically different. And one option for admissions programs is to staff up to match that load. For them, they had a volunteer team of people that was already on staff that is helping drive the admissions process and the review process. So staffing up wasn't really an option for them. Their choice was to find a way to be more productive. And so their expectation was to see a doubling of applications, and what really happened this fall was that it was more than double from the previous year. So they looked with IBM and with Red Hat and said, we want to find a way to use large language models and AI to increase the productivity of our admissions process, right? So this workflow kind of talks through what that looks like for a given candidate that starts up on the top here where they submit their application to Albert Einstein. And the AI will then summarize a full 80-page application down to a single-page summary. It'll look for keywords around volunteerism, keywords around test scores for SAT, ACT, MCAT, et cetera, right? And build a summary for the humans to review, right? And then the workflow from a user interface perspective is a member of the admissions committee logs into the screening portal. They see a list of candidates sorted by their qualifications, and they select a candidate and start with the one-page summary. Part of the great thing with the large language model around Granite is that it's able to self-score itself about how confident it is in its summary. And that's built into the system to have a high threshold of confidence for the summary to be presented to the admissions committee member. Because that first impression really matters because we're humans and we are doing some qualitative review and some quantitative review mixed together here to make sure that we're not giving a unfair summary of someone's application, right? So that helps for that first one page. They read through that summary, including some red and green flags about volunteerism scores. There's a few things around behaviors that show up as red flags. So if you have felonies in your background, some of those sorts of things are part of the code of conduct for applications for people going into the school, right? And then after that first review is done by a human, then they go to the larger committee and review and interview the candidate, right? So this process before involved the volunteers reading those 80-page applications with some skimming, right? And the feedback from the admissions team, this project started in May of this year. Through this summer, they brought up an OpenShift AI system with watsonx.data, watsonx AI, and got it into production to help with fall admissions this year. So this is a use case that was in production to help with the admissions flow process this fall, right? So looking at it from a kind of floor tiles up through the large language model, they took advantage of the IBM Fusion HCI system. Fusion HCI is a pre-integrated bare metal OpenShift appliance. So the first 6U of the rack is 1U NVMe storage-rich servers. So we can do data foundation in an HCI architecture right inside of OpenShift. And then we can add in 3U GPU accelerated nodes. And those can have 1 to 8 different GPUs in each of them. That technology all together into a running OpenShift cluster with Red Hat AI. And then on top of that, we can layer watsonx AI and watsonx.data, which provides access to the data sets, provides a structured database table, metadata management, a lot of things that are required for large enterprise AI projects for bringing the structured data into the system. And then watsonx.governance watches through the cycles, has scoring systems to see if there's hallucinations happening, if there's drift happening, to identify as they're running the model through the data sets of applications coming in, making sure it's constantly getting that feedback loop of things that need to get modified for weights if it's skewing in the wrong direction, or looking back at the model itself for refreshing, as we talked about earlier, from Granite 2.0 to 3.0, those sorts of things, right? So that's where watsonx governance comes in. So again, the bare metal OpenShift was the Fusion HCI hardware appliance with GPU acceleration. It had L40S GPUs because the Granite model is fairly memory efficient compared to some other models out in the market. And then at the OpenShift layer, we have HADR. There's a 3-4 site design here for keeping the system and the infrastructure up and running for Albert Einstein. So that's the use case at a high level. They're using the same infrastructure for some virtual machines and other kind of technology that you've heard about this morning with OpenShift also, because it's a bare metal x86 appliance. It supports all the KubeVirt, OpenShift-Virt capabilities too. So I think that was most of what I wanted to cover in terms of the use case itself. So currently, watsonx AI is powered by Red Hat AI and is deployed to both summarize and analyze the application text. Governance is deployed to measure the AI faithfulness, quality, and fairness. And at the hardware level, Fusion HCI is providing the DR, backup restore, all those enterprise resiliency features you need for enterprise workloads, whether they're OpenShift or others. And then from business performance perspective, they're summarizing, processing hundreds of applications per week this fall. We're now in the time of year where that's starting to tail off, just the natural cycle of the admissions process. With AI summarization and auto tagging of the different flags that they specifically were looking for, right? So, and then from a workflow perspective, IBM Consulting helped in with getting the initial screening, interview, and second interviews all linked into a single workflow. So, all right, so if there's questions that you have about the use case, about Red Hat AI, about the Fusion product, we're happy to cover anything that you have for us.
Yeah, and as before, we've got microphones scattered around the room there, so if you'd like to ask a question, please step up. We've got some shirts here as well for anyone who answers, even more impressive, but asks a question as well, so feel free, come up to the mic. So actually, as this lady comes to the mic here, I will ask a quick question. For those folks out there, perhaps, who would like to get their hands dirty with, a Granite model, maybe training it, play around with it. What's the best way of doing that? Because I know InstructLab is one option, and personally, I've used InstructLab on my own personal laptop. It's not particularly high powered, but I've had really good results with that. And
definitely, I would go the route Simon did. Download InstructLab. It is an open source project. Play with it in your computer. That's the best first step to do. If you want to get your hands on Granite, like I said, they're open source. So if you go to Hugging Face, you can download them, including the 3.0 ones. Within our products, OpenShift AI today supports the Granite 3.0 in terms of serving the model. It will be fully integrated with the next release, and RHEL AI will support the Granite 3.0 as well in the next release that is coming out in December.
And the IBM public cloud has the OpenShift AI as a service too, if you want to interact with it just in kind of the traditional chat prompt kind of experience as opposed to deploying a model too.
Fantastic, a couple of really good options there. So
Yeah.
I think we had a question from the gentleman there. Yeah.
Hi, how are you? My name is Chung from Red Hat. I know OpenShift AI is actually AI platform, which doesn't have actually foundation model or kind of model building tools, but we integrate with any kind of modeling. That is a great one. So you guys talking about the what's the next AI integration with the OpenShift AI. I want to know about the what's the next step with our partners planning perspective, like Google has a Vertex, like a Microsoft has an OpenAI and all other partners, right? Mm-hmm. What is your planning working with those ecosystem partners?
Working with them in what perspective? In terms of their platforms, or?
We have actually pretty good solid platform, OpenShift AI. But as you point out, this kind of Albert Einstein use cases.
Yep.
So what's next has been used for building the AI workload from the beginning to the end. Now, do we have any other kind of projects running with, for example, GCP's Vertex AI or OpenAI? So do you guys have kind of planning for those kind of use cases and then planning? Yes.
From a Watson X perspective, you're asking?
From the OpenShift AI perspective.
So OpenShift AI is the platform that would compete against those that you were just saying. So with the way that we integrate with them, just like you were saying earlier, is it is open in terms of we have a bring your own model approach. So you can bring any model and further train it within OpenShift AI. We will be integrating some of these Granite that are part of RHEL AI today into OpenShift AI in the future as well.
But if I understand correctly, like a what's the next AI, whenever a customer have that one, it comes with OpenShift AI on it, right?
Yes.
But what if like I'm the GCP customer, I'm actually buying the Vertex AI as a build platform? Mm-hmm. Are we planning to include the OpenShift AI part of those offerings?
No, not today.
So it's never going to happen, or it's coming?
Not sure, to be honest. That'll be a question for the product management, but I can ask and get back to you.
All right, good, thank you.
I'd like to add a little bit to that because it's kind of an industry trends question, right? So as you look at large language models in the industry, there's really, in my mind, two different kind of groups. One is large language models where you get API access to it,
yep, and
it sits behind a vendor that built the model inside of their data center in their cloud service, right? And then the other is large language models where the person that built the model or the organization that built the model is delivering the model for you to consume in whatever way makes sense to you. And sure, there's going to be license terms around what you can and can't do with different models, but at a high level, whether you get to have the model and run it on-prem, disconnected from the internet, or you have to do an API call into a server that the owner of the model has as API access into it, is really kind of the two different models of consuming this technology in the industry today. And IBM and Red Hat are very much on the, we want you to be able to take this technology and put it behind your own walls and innovate inside of your business, in addition to having the option of running it on public cloud. Right? So hopefully that helps a little with the questions about how integration is going to work. Of course, you can do applications that mix and match both and do API calls into one as part of a workflow, right? So there is ways to take advantage of the technology of both, but there are really two different approaches there. Hopefully that helps. Other questions?
Fantastic. Thanks, Greg. Do we have any more questions at all? Hey, just out of curiosity, with a show of hands here, who's actually in the work at the moment actually working with LLMs or training models at all? So I think we've probably got around about 6 to 8 hands go up there. So still very much in the early stages of adoption at this point. So again, if you want to get hands-on time with it, personally, like I say, I use InstructLab. I've been playing around with it for a couple of months now. I found it very, very useful, and I've learned a lot during that time. So.
Yeah. And I'd also add, yeah, stop by our booth this week. We'll be doing some other demos in OpenShift AI and RHEL AI as well. And yeah, please feel free to ask us any more questions. I'll definitely follow up on yours.
Yeah, just a plug for that as well. IBM booth D6 on the show floor from tomorrow, and Red Hat at D1. So I know we'll have lots of folks there who would love to answer any questions that you may have. But at this point, I'd like to thank Craig. Younes, thank you for your time. And yeah, thank you.